My Good Content with Byron LaBare, and super excited to have Johnny Beecher here coming off an exceptional rookie season with the Boston Bruins. So welcome, Johnny.
Thank you for having me.
Well, going back when you were drafted in the first round by the Boston Bruins, if you can kind of start there and tell your story from there to where you are now.
Yeah, it's crazy that it was, you know, pretty much 5 years ago now, and it feels like it was yesterday, but the school year had kind of just ended, and then you go through, the NHL Combine and that whole process, and I interviewed with, I want to say, 29 teams. We interviewed with most of them, and our draft was out in Vancouver, so. Our whole family went out for that, and we brought Daniel Diamond along with us, one of my best buddies from back home. So we went out there, and it was a little uncertainty, if I was going to get picked on that first night or not. I with Don Sweeney, the GM, right in the hotel lobby of where he was staying, and we just sat down and had a good 30, 40-minute chat, and I think he just kind of wanted to get a better feel for me, see what kind of person I was. And that went pretty well, and they had the 29th pick, so it was going to be right towards the end, and we were on the edge of our seat there for a little bit, but they got up on the clock, and was fortunate enough to hear my name, and so many emotions start kind of coming through you at that point. It's obviously not the end goal just to get drafted, but at the end of the day, it's a huge step forward. And as a kid growing up, all you want to do is play in the NHL as a young hockey player, and to hear your name get called, and to go up on stage was pretty special. And to have my family there with me to kind of share it with them was awesome too. So I went up on stage, and I was shaking, and you do the whole pick with all the staff and everything, and the guy next to me was like, "Hey, like, you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're good." Because I was literally, my whole body was shaking.
If I can recall, I think the Tampa Bay Lightning had the pick right after that.
Those Sabres right after.
Oh, okay. For
Yep.
some reason, I thought the Lightning were right around there, and I was like, oh, that would have been nice if he was in Tampa, but I know it's much better up in Boston to be closer to your family.
Yeah, no, it worked out perfectly. I love the city of Boston, and love being a Bruin, and it's 5 to 6 hour car ride for the family to come see me on home games, and so I got to see them a bunch throughout the year this year, and it's worked out perfectly.
So then, jumping forward a little bit, you're getting into that rookie season. I believe your first goal was in Dallas. I mean, the emotions of getting drafted. Fast forward several years, and now you're in the NHL playing for the Bruins. And how did that first goal? How did that feel?
It's kind of one of those things you almost can't even like put into words. Literally. So I mean, when you get in the NHL, it's obviously dream come true, and it's everything you ever wanted. But you realize pretty quick that it's it's hard to make it, but it's even harder to stick. So I wanted to kind of show up at the start of the season, and prove that I was there for a reason, and that I belonged. And yeah, I mean, to get the first one out of the way was pretty special, and it was probably one of the nicer goals I've scored throughout my careers. It was definitely one that I'll always remember. And it was actually funny. Another rookie on the team this year, Mason Lowry, he scored his first that game too. So we got a picture together afterwards. We were both holding our first goal pucks, and so yeah, that was pretty special.
That's awesome. I also remember coming to the game in Tampa, and you had the goal there in Tampa as well.
Yeah, no, that one was cool too. We were on the father's trip. So all the dads were in the crowd, and my grandma was actually at the game as well. So she got to see that one too, which was nice. She can't really get to too many games anymore, being down in Florida for the winters. So it was pretty cool to kind of have them both there, and you as well. It was always fun to score, but always even more fun when you can put one in the net with your family and friends in the crowd.
Yeah, and I know another emotional one for you was when you played up in Buffalo. And
Yeah.
that's when all your family, from Elmira, upstate New York, could come to the game. So if you maybe want to walk through that one a little bit as well.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. People were reaching out to my parents, for weeks leading up to it. They had, just said to me like, hey, like just a heads up, like when you come out after the game, like there's probably going to be a good amount of people here to see you. And I came out of the tunnel and I like kind of turned my head and just looked up, and literally there was a full section from like the glass up to the concourse full. I was like,
Oh my good.
well, I'm like walking up and I couldn't even like find my parents. So they're up at the top. So I made my way through and, went up, said hi to them and gave them hugs. And, but yeah, it was awesome. The support that my family and I have gotten throughout my entire career, especially now, has been, it's been crazy. Being from a small town, not too many people really make it to this level, and just to see the engagement and how much people care and how much people, want to see me succeed has been awesome. I feel like pretty much every time I leave the house while I'm home, a new person comes up and introduces themselves and congratulates me. And, half the time they say, I've never watched a hockey game before in my life, and I watched every game you played this year on TV. So it's pretty cool. And, it's also, just good for the community, growing the game. Hopefully some younger kids around here can, kind of see what I'm doing and realize, it doesn't matter if you're, from a small town in the middle of New York. I mean, if you're willing to, put in the work and put in the hours, then, anything's possible.
Yeah, I've watched some hockey, but since you've been playing, I've watched even more. And my father watches every single game that's on television of yours. And this is something I wanted to ask you. You excel at the faceoffs. What do you contribute that to?
It's kind of always been a strength of my game. It's kind of something that when I was younger, probably around 15 to like 17 age mark, it's kind of something I kind of really try to develop and, get better at. I've had some coaches throughout the years, that have played professional and, played up the middle, in the NHL and in high level, situations. They've just kind of given me little tips and tricks, along the way, just to try and get a little, upper hand on the opponent. It's huge. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to do what, you do best to, make a living. I mean, a lot of guys, will score 30 to 60 goals and, have 100-point seasons, but, you still need those guys who are, playing 200 feet and going out there to win D zone draws for you. So, I think the face-offs and, certain details that I had in my game, especially this year were huge and, keeping me in the lineup and, kind of keeping me, into the game. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good little tool to have in the belt.
And speaking of in the game, I mean, then you get, your rookie season and then you're on the team for the playoffs. How'd you feel about that when they selected to have you go into the playoffs with them?
Yeah, it was awesome. Obviously probably right around the halfway mark of the season, I was sent down. Wasn't playing great, and a little bit of contract issues got in the way. It is what it is, and I have a ton of good buddies down in Providence for their AHL team. Playing with them last year, and so I went down there and just try to make the most of it. I was able to kind of get back to my game and get everything back to where it needed to be, and um, you know was able to get the call back up with about a month left in the season, maybe a little bit more actually. And then obviously you come around playoff time and um, you know, everybody loves playoff hockey. I think it's one of the most exciting, sporting events that you can really, see in person and on TV. We went out for game one in TD Garden and I mean, you're walking through the tunnel, going out for the game, and you can't even hear yourself think. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever gotten to be a part of. And, obviously we wish we made a little bit of a longer run, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And, at the end of the day, it's just unbelievable to have that experience.
That's great. So now, in regards to the experience, I know you played at Michigan. I know probably a big leap going from college to the pros. What would you say were some of the adjustments that you had to make going from playing in college and then playing for the Bruins?
I mean, the biggest thing is just when you get to pro hockey, it's so much more detailed. In college, it's a lot of north-south hockey, a lot of odd man rushes and little mistakes and bounces here and there where teams are capitalizing. But once you kind of make that jump to the pros, it's pretty obvious right away that not many guys are making mistakes or out of position. So it's definitely not as run and gun. You really got to be dialed into, all the details, and, there's never really a second on the ice that you can kind of shut your brain off, just because, as soon as you blink, somebody's going by you and they're going to be wide open and get found in front of the net. So, that was definitely the biggest part for me, was, just adjusting to that a little bit. It was kind of one of those things where you got to be on it all times, or, people are going to notice.
And then you mentioned that you went down to Providence, the physical game of the aspect of hockey, but mentally, how did you work through that when you found out you're going down to Providence?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously tough. You're halfway throughout your first NHL season, and at this point, you've made unbelievable friendships and bonds with all your teammates, and you're where you wanted to be your whole life, and you get knocked down a peg. But it was one of those things where my family was great for me. Just kind of being there to rely on. Like I said, the guys in the locker room down there were awesome. A bunch of good buddies down there, and the coaches were great. And then I actually started working with a sports psychologist, Alicia Nasser, and she's been great. I started working with her right around that time, and she really kind of helped me just refocus and realize the world wasn't going to end just because Johnny Beecher got sent down to the AHLs. She was huge for me down the stretch this year, and just kind of keeping me level-headed and ready to go.
When you came back, I was thinking that is some mental toughness because, as you stated, in your rookie season, you're there, you're so excited, and then Providence, but to come back, then make the playoff team, what are your thoughts now after having your first rookie season and what you went through? How are you feeling after your first year?
I'm feeling good. Obviously, like you said, it was a little bit of an up and down year, but I think it kind of made me mature a good amount, and kind of look at things differently. I think you can get comfortable where you're at, and think you're safe, but there's not many jobs in this world with more instability than playing in the NHL. So going into next year, I'm confident, and it's kind of one of those things where you just got to take a step both on the ice and off the ice, come in, be more confident, be more comfortable. I mean, all the guys and all the staff and all the coaches. So I'm definitely excited for training camp when that comes around, and it'll be a big summer for me to prepare. I just got back in the gym, just kind of get my body back to where it needs to be, and I'll head back out to Boston after July 4th and start skating and training there, and getting ready.
Okay. So now, just so we can gather more about your story of when did you first start playing hockey? What was it that you said, hockey's my passion, this is something that I love, and it's a dream of mine to play in the NHL?
So my brother was always big into hockey. He started playing when he was like 2 years old. My dad never really played growing up or anything like that, and he picked it up in men's league around the time Bryce was born, and Bryce was always huge into it. And growing up, that just kind of got me around the game. I was either at the rink watching him play and running around, or we were at home playing street hockey or knee hockey. So my parents would always take me out to go skating, and I hated it. They always joke around and say that every time I'd go out there, I'd fall and want to get off because I would say it was too slippery out there. So I was 6, and the ice kind of started to not be too slippery anymore for me, and everything just kind of started to click a little bit, and worked with a couple of coaches around here. Dean Jackson, worked on my skating a ton, and kind of just kept progressing and getting better and better. And at that point, I was playing in Elmira for probably 5-6 years. And then we decided to go play in Syracuse for the Syracuse Nationals, which was a AAA organization, and that's where it all took off for me.
What was like in middle school and high school for hockey in the Elmira area?
So it was just Elmira Jackals youth hockey. And when we were younger, I mean, there was a ton of kids playing, and our community was pretty involved. I mean, you'd go over to the first arena on a weekend, and it would be packed with families and kids just getting there to play hockey games all day. So, it was an unbelievable time for us. I mean, still to this day, some of my best memories from the sport are, back in the day in the first arena, whether it was playing or just watching and hanging out with my buddies. So it was definitely a great, start for me. And it's definitely where my love for the game definitely developed.
So now where do you see yourself, looking ahead after your first season? Do you have any goals going into next year, the year after, things to work on, those types of things?
Yeah, I think going into this next year, a big thing for me will just be the consistency part of the game. Obviously in the NHL, you're playing 82 games, even before playoffs, and it's tough to, be prepared and be ready to go each and every game. But I think it just comes with a little bit of maturity and kind of growing up and, making sure that, you're getting the right amount of sleep and you're putting the right things in your body. And, um, you know, game 65, you're just as prepared as game one. And, I think for me moving forward, that'll be probably the biggest thing to focus on. Because then once you become more consistent, you gain more trust from the coaching staff, you gain more trust from your teammates and, then your confidence starts to go up and, you start getting more and more opportunities.
That's great. Well, I look forward to watching you in your second season coming up this year and appreciate you sharing all that information.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it'll be a big summer and, we'll be ready to go come training camp.
Bryce, how are you?
Not bad.
Gosh, I saw Johnny for the first time in Tampa. I haven't seen you in person in forever.
I know. It's, my mom was saying it might be Harry's wedding.
I think it was. So thanks for coming on.
Oh, absolutely.
It was great talking to Johnny. I wanted to talk to you, being that the Beecher family is so close, so
Yeah.
supportive, and what all of you do, what all your endeavors are, and supportive, whether you're playing hockey, what it is in life, your work, or what it might be. So just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, growing up in the Beecher family around hockey. I know you're a great athlete. I remember watching you play baseball in
Yeah.
Vestal back, I can't remember what year it was, that little field over by the high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but great baseball players, hockey players. So just wanted to maybe take you back to the earlier years. I know Johnny was saying that when he first started hockey, he couldn't skate well, didn't really like it, and that you excelled at hockey. So if you want to share a little bit about your childhood and growing up with hockey.
I mean, it was based around a lot of sports, honestly. We never really fixated on one sport until we were a little bit older. I mean, from the time we could play outside by ourselves, we were playing wiffle ball, football, street hockey, whatever it was. And I always tell people just like kudos to Johnny's athleticism. I think it has a big part to do with it. I mean, we didn't even skate in the summer until we were probably 12 or 13. So yeah, we were just constantly always playing outside and playing everything you could imagine. But a lot of it was based around hockey. There was a lot of hours in the driveway and rollerblades and playing street hockey.
So, in all the sports that you played and growing up, with unfortunately the issue with the hip dysplasia, and I know we have those types of things. I've had certain things, people have things, but for you, the hip dysplasia with hockey and everything, if you don't mind sharing how that affected you and who you've become today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, from a young age, it kind of looked like I had maybe like a disability. I maybe wasn't as quick as kids running or skating. But I never really looked at it that way. I just always kind of looked at it as it could be much worse. In sports, maybe it gave me like a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, just being a little bit different. But no, I never looked at it as a disability, maybe just like a motivation, and just kind of took everything in stride and just never really crossed my mind as wishing it was different. And I tell people all the time, I wouldn't change a thing.
I know you played hockey even into your college days at Elmira,
Yep.
correct?
Yes. So that was kind of a cool experience. My junior year of high school was actually my last regular season. My hips had kind of progressively gotten a little bit worse. So my going into my senior year, I had them replaced up in New York City. With that being said, like I wasn't technically allowed to play contact sports anymore. So I kind of ended playing hockey, unfortunately, pretty early. So I went to University of Buffalo, and then I transferred to Elmira College. And it was a good change for me just getting out of Buffalo. And I got back into hockey, just working for the team. I was playing men's league again. And I was just with the guys all the time. I'd usually throw on my skates on Thursdays after practice. They would do a little shootout. So I'd be out there buzzing around with them. And the senior year, the captains came and they nicely enough wanted me to dress for a game. So I got a couple shifts, which was very cool. Kind of a critical moment after having to stop play.
So going through those experiences, not the same as you, but I've had asthma my whole life. And like you, I actually looked at it as more of like, okay, I have this, but it can't beat me down. It's what I have and it's what I have to deal with. What advice would you give to people at younger ages if they run into something like that?
I just think you can always work around something. If in my circumstance, I was playing sports, for example, I wasn't the quickest guy, but I could find other ways to be effective. And I think just having a positive mindset about it and not really looking at it as a woe me situation, realizing that it can always be worse and just to make the most out of everything.
Okay. So currently now here you are 25 years old?
6.
26. Okay. Time's going by too fast.
Too
So
fast.
currently, what are you up to? What are you doing nowadays?
Not much, just kind of laying low, working for my dad over at the lumber yard. I've been there for, probably 3-4 years full time now, since I got out of school, and got a handful of guys that I work out with and just kind of laying low and hanging out.
Well, good for you. I noticed actually a couple of years ago, if you're still doing it, but some of the bodybuilding stuff.
Yeah, so I've always kind of had a passion for training from a young age. My parents got me a 4-mount chin-up bars, probably when I was in middle school. Like we kind of progressed and built a little gym in the basement. And then I was fortunate enough to have some good mentors in the strength world and kind of started training Johnny in the summers and stuff. Then we actually moved and we got a nice little gym over at Chapel's in an old warehouse. Now, for a little bit when I was done playing hockey, I was kind of looking at some different avenues to put some time and energy into. And I did a bodybuilding show, and it was a teen division. I ended up winning it, but that was a one-time deal. That was pretty taxing on the body.
I remember that. That was, I don't know how, like I said, time flies by, but I remember when you did that.
Yep. Yeah, I think I was 19 because I was
Okay.
just able to be in the teen division. So it was a great experience. Just something new. Learned a lot about different aspects of food and nutrition and the whole 9 yards. But yeah, it took a lot out of me. I think I started my diet at about 185 pounds, and at the show I was 155.
Whoa.
So
There's a
yeah,
lot of people that would love to be able to lose 30, but not that one.
no, it was a good experience, but it took a lot out of me for sure.
Well, it's extremely admirable to see, what you've done with your life. There's people that might not actually look at it the way you did. So thank you for sharing all that.
No, yeah,
So
absolutely.
what are your thoughts on Johnny now, seeing him at the Bruins, and do you get to many of the games?
Yeah, lucky enough, working for my dad, we can kick out of there on Fridays and catch a bunch of home games. I don't know exactly how many home games we made this year, but we made a lot. But it's just been a dream come true to watch him go through the whole process from moving away from home at 14 to go to prep school to making the national team and going to Michigan. I mean, I just couldn't be any more proud of how he's handled the whole thing. And, a lot of people from the outside don't really understand how much somebody like that's got to like put in the work, and the sacrifice that goes into getting that far. So it's been awesome to watch him, and can't wait to watch him keep climbing the ladder.
Yeah, it sure is enjoyable to watch. I was saying to Johnny that I've always enjoyed hockey, but I watched more hockey games this year than I
Yeah,
have in probably the last 10 years, because my father would call and say, Johnny's on, or he'd text me and I'd be like, what channel? And I'd put it right on and I'd pull it up on the ESPN app. And then I'd always find myself going into the stats and seeing how he did in his faceoffs, because I know that's one area he excels.
yeah, it's been fun this year. A lot of people say that Johnny probably said the same thing. People come up to us weekly during the season. They say, "Man, I've never watched a hockey game. I haven't missed the Bruins game this year, and they're at game 60."
Yeah, I mean, it's how big the NHL is. Living down here in St. Pete, I have some friends, and when you're in St. Pete, you have a lot of people from the Northeast,
Yep.
And there's actually a lot of Boston Bruin fans here. And when I went to the Tampa game, my girlfriend and I were sitting up like the first row, but up in the third level, and Johnny scored. And we're screaming and yelling and everything. And like everyone around us is looking at us. And I said, well, that's my cousin. And they all started cheering. So it was neat to see, that people, the way they are, but that was a cool experience to watch them play there.
Oh,
So
yeah, we were actually we were watching that game at home, and all the crew was at the house, so everybody was going crazy.
yeah, that was really, I'll never personally forget that, because it's like, wait, that was Johnny. Like,
Yeah,
you're sitting up there and you're watching the game, you're having a beer, you're watching the game. It's so quick that it
yeah,
was pretty cool. And even a lot of people down here now, when they're talking, if they say the Bruins, I'll say Johnny's on that team. They're like, Beecher? Like, they know it right away. It's
yeah,
crazy how people really are in tune and watch the Bruins play. So
yeah. It is. It was funny with people, just contractors coming into work, and some of these guys I've never knew they even knew what sports were, and they're calling out his stats and everything. I'm like, man, you guys are really paying attention.
yeah, and like Johnny said, coming from a small town, I'm from Endicott, so coming from a small town, it's even bigger.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and it's just cool to see and how much support he gets, and it's just nice. I mean, everybody's rooting for him here, so it's been really fun to watch and kind of be a part of.
yeah, and I know he appreciates your support. I love it because, like he said, he didn't even like skating when he was little.
Yeah, he wasn't a fan of it at first, but you don't really have an option when you're good at it.
And he's looking at you, and you're good at it. So
You got any races or anything you're training for?
no, similar kind of view. I've been running for so long. Every time I try to go back, I'm beat up.
Yeah,
I turned 51 this year, and I want to run, and I started up a couple months ago, and I ran a 10K, did well, and then like 3 days later, hamstring hurts. This hurts. So I've gone to the point of I want to be healthy. People have always told me do yoga for mobility, and I hated it. And now I go like 5 days a week. I love it. So
yeah.
that and Pilates, I want to be healthy
Mhm.
in my body to feel good versus killing it anymore. I would like to run races again, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But thank you for asking.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, definitely have to catch up with you guys when I get up there.
Well,
But thank you very much. I appreciate it. You look great.
absolutely, you as well.
Couple questions for you guys, though. I know you're a really tight-knit family. As parents, walk us through, tell us the story of Bryce and Johnny as being younger and how it evolved as they grew into young men.
So like Johnny was always around the rink, right? And we put him on 2 winters in a row. Like once he was like 3 or 4, me to be like, all right, you want to go out there and try it? Absolutely not. When he said to you, like it was too slippery for him, that's literally what he would tell us. It's too slippery. He'd fall one time and he'd be done. So then we tried it another year, still too slippery, not doing this. We're like, all right, well, it doesn't matter what you want to do, but you have to find something that you're going to do, right? Like you have to be involved in something. But then that summer, he rollerbladed with the kids outside on the tennis court. Like they rollerbladed all summer playing hockey outside on the tennis court. And so that winter, we were like, all right, we're going to do this one more time. If it doesn't work this winter, then we are done with this. Like we'll move on to basketball, whatever the case may be. And he literally stepped on the ice, and just from rollerblading all summer long, he literally stepped on the ice and like took off. We were very lucky. A lot of our friends had a child Bryce's age, and they also had siblings John's age, brothers in particular. It was really kind of strange. But like he literally just took off, and everyone just kind of like sat there looking at each other like, well, when did this happen?
As we did.
As we did, we were like, oh, I guess he's gonna like
As
it.
well, especially over the summer when there's no ice.
Yeah, exactly. But he just had that confidence and that, got that
Little edge work.
stability. Yeah.
Mhm.
To be able to say, and it's not that bad. So it was literally hysterical. And then it was forward from then on.
So in watching them, I mean, like my sister and I growing up and stuff, Kelly excelled in something, especially schoolwork. And then you had me that, was not like that and stuff. When growing up, as we said, Bryce had some of the issues with his hips, but he had such a positive outlook. As parents, what were some of the values that you instilled in Bryce and Johnny? Because their outlook, both of them, as I speak with them today and in the past, is just so wonderful.
Yeah, I think obviously first and foremost for us would just be work hard. It doesn't matter whether it was school, whether it was sports, whatever they decided to do, whether it didn't matter if it was them being in a band, being in chorus, it didn't matter to us what they were going to do, but whatever you were choosing to do, you were going to give it your all and you were going to work hard at it and be the best you could be at it. And sometimes your best didn't mean like in school. Sometimes your best didn't mean you were going to get 100, but you tried your best. That's what was important to us.
Just work hard, but just be a good person, treat others how you want to be treated. We're proud of both of them.
Yeah.
They're good young men.
John is so great about when he's in Boston. He was good with Providence also about volunteering, like every opportunity that the team gets to do a volunteer experience, whether it be skating with young kids or going to a local fire department or whatever the case may be. He's always very good about going and volunteering his time, and that's really important to us. And Bryce is the same way. Like, Bryce is the kind of kid, if in the wintertime he was driving home and he saw someone, like an older person, shoveling their driveway, he would literally stop and shovel it for them. Like, they're both like good people, which is extremely important to us.
Because you both say good people, because when I've talked to a couple of people, we still come back to we're humans.
Yeah.
So if we can be good humans, some of us just excel at something else. Someone could be a superhuman kind of runner. They have a talent in running,
right.
Hockey. It could be something else. But in the end of the day, we're all humans.
Exactly.
And
we see all the time, like you just said, people are particularly good at one thing. They're still people. They're still, they just happen to be really good at something that someone else isn't. That's all it is.
And that's why in just talking to Bryce, I mean, his outlook on everything is just phenomenal. And I mean, and that's where, what you guys instilled in them and the values of them growing up, it shows.
When we were going through everything with Bryce, we didn't really know what we were going through. To be honest with you, we were completely in the dark with everything, from his first surgery at 13 months old. So we kind of just were like, all right, well, we're going to go through this, but we're going to treat everything else as normal. So like one time he got out of a body cast. We had already had him signed up to play. I'm the mother of the year here. Had him signed up to play soccer. And he'd been in a body cast for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And he got out of his body cast. And I was like, I think he's good. He can go out and he can be the goalie of the soccer team. And he did. And he was great. So I think we just treated it and we just went through because we didn't know what we were doing. These were uncharted waters for both of us. Yeah. And so we just didn't let it like alter his life as much as possible, or in our life as much as possible, to be honest with you. We went and did, and we let him do the things that we felt like he should have been doing. So I think that maybe helped him a lot. I don't know. We weren't going to allow it to like dictate life totally.
Yeah. And the way he just even spoke to the point of what you're saying, it doesn't sound like it's dictated his life. He's living his life. He's doing what he's doing. So that's great. We move forward and, Johnny gets drafted 30th in the 2019 draft. As parents, when you saw that, I know you were there out in Vancouver, what was going through your mind leading up to going out there and then being there and then sharing that moment with Johnny?
You go out with a hopeful mind, I guess. You have a ballpark idea, projections of, where everybody's going to fall and, but to be there and in that moment, I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it. When they called his name, and we use the word surreal a lot. It just a surreal experience and moment. You reflect very quickly and you think about all the games and the trips and the practices and just all the variables. So, and then it was the boys and Tosh and I and the boys' best friend, Daniel Diamond. We had him come out with us, which was great to have, share that with him, and certainly a pinch yourself moment.
There was a funny quick story about it, though. We got into the rink because it was in a rink, and they sat us in our seats. And as we were sitting there, so we were on one side of where the ice would have been, and I'm looking across, and across from us is all of John's USA hockey teammates, all of his NTDP teammates. And so I was looking like at all the guys that we knew, like we knew Jack was going first. We knew, Matthew Boldy was going. We knew like all these boys were going, in the top 10, 15, whatever the case may be.
Projected
first rounders, right? And so I'm looking and they're all on the other side of the rink from us. And that's where all the cameras are. And after a couple of minutes, I was sitting there and I was like, we're not on that side of the ice. I was like, I don't know if this is a sign. Like, we were on the side with a bunch of his teammates also, but we knew that they were not necessarily projected to go in the first round. And we also knew that there was a good chance that John could go or John couldn't go. So we were like, all right, but it was really strange. And so it got down to Boston, and you could watch on the other side, like from our vantage point, you could see the cameras start to move toward the next young man. In my mind, I'm thinking that we'll be back tomorrow. And then when they got to the 29th and they got to Boston, we could kind of see a camera coming over to us, and there hadn't been one before. And then I don't know if Johnny told you, when he got up on stage, Gary Bettman said to him, "What were you doing sitting over there?" John's like, "I don't know."
Making my parents nervous.
It's crazy. A little more tense than normal.
And then, moving forward to then actually seeing him on the ice for the first time. What was that like?
I find I reflect a lot. Just you're so proud of him, and I just think of all the process and how fortunate he's been to be at the right place at the right time with good coaches and good teammates. Because there's so many variables that go into it, and you got to be good and you got to work hard, but there's some luck and good fortune that goes into it as well. I look at him out there now, and
I guess sometimes I don't think about it as we've been to we've seen so many hockey games. And I remember the first game, I think he was taking a face-off against Ryan O'Reilly, and I hadn't thought much about it. Like, I hadn't thought much about, like, oh my God, this is his first NHL game. For whatever reason, when he was facing off against Ryan O'Reilly, I was like, oh my God, that's Ryan O'Reilly he's facing off against. Like, there were certain people that when he was playing against those, and I don't know why, like, they're all amazing, right? But there were certain times I was like, holy cow, like,
there's certain players you see him on the ice against.
I'm like, holy crap, that's the thing right now.
the Sidney Crosbys and the Ovechkins, there's certain players you see him on the ice against, and you're kind of like, holy.
Even some of his own teammates, he's so fortunate right now to be playing with some, Brad Marchand, Linus Allmark, like just all of the guys on the Bruins team. He's obviously one of the younger ones, but he's just getting an opportunity to play with just not only amazing hockey players, but also amazing people. And so for that, we are so fortunate for him to be able to get those experiences with those guys that, are going to be Hall of Famers, and he gets to skate with them every day. So that's really cool.
I think it shows his resilience and everything that the two of you taught him growing up, two of the values. But when he was put down to Providence, I remember my father and I were talking, we were like, oh, like, no. How can they do that? To go there and to do what he did and then get back on the Bruins and then be on the playoff team. I mean, that gives me the goosebumps right now, because that's even bigger than just going in your rookie season, having a stellar season, but to go through what he went through.
Yeah.
I feel like personally that it's going to make him even stronger moving forward.
Mentally and emotionally, that takes a toll on you, right? Like, then you start to question yourself, and just a little bit on the emotional side of it, mental aspect of it, which is obviously, being a runner, especially the mental aspect of that is huge. And we've finally been very lucky.
He referenced Johnny.
To Dr. Nasser. She's her name, Alicia Nasser. And I told her that we've been looking for you for a long time. So I'm so glad we finally found you. She's great in that aspect for him. And again, we really looked for someone for him for a very long time. And she's been fantastic for him, because it's so important. That's really, really important. So, rebounding from stuff like that is really important for him. So
just to find a healthy balance and manage the emotions in a healthy way, and not turn the waves into ripples.
Yeah.
So
his teammates in Providence are awesome too. Like, he loved all those guys. They're really good guys, and they welcomed him back with open arms, which was huge, And then even going back, that's a little weird, right? To go back after being gone for a month back to Boston, and all the guys there, as soon as he got back, they were fantastic with him. They, again, like, he never left. So that was really good for him also.
Yeah, I mean, because when I look at that, I mean, the physical part you have, that's hard enough to stay physically strong through a hockey season, but then the mental aptitude, the strength and everything that he has to go through a rookie season like that, to me, I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it was really good. He was fortunate too, I think, to live with Matt Potra. So Matt was a rookie also, and he was only 19 years old when the season started. So they decided to live together this year in Boston. And I think that was really good for both of them, just because they were in the same situation and they could talk about things at their apartment together that you wouldn't talk about probably at the rink, right? Or they could empathize with one another about things, whatever.
Living similar lives.
Yeah. So I think that was really helpful for both of them this year also.
What I think is just wonderful too is it's still the Beecher family. Like it hasn't changed because Johnny's, the Bruins, you're the Beecher family, like you've always been. And I love that. I think that shows how wonderful parents you are, both where Bryce is at right now, where Johnny's at, and the mindset that they have because of all the values and the things that you've instilled in them at such a young age.
I think we got lucky. I don't know, like they're just great kids. Like we're lucky.
We've been very fortunate, and you hope to instill good values and work ethic and all those things, and we've been very fortunate. They're both great kids. So many people talk to us about Johnny, and it's a big platform and a big stage that he's on, but we are no less proud or thankful for Bryce and who he is and what he is, and we're very fortunate to have two great kids.
So any advice to give to those people out there that have, maybe similar dynamic, one that's just maybe an athlete and gets a little bit more attention for something, and the other one's just not interested in athletics. Any advice for families, because you guys have done such a great job?
They're both equal. Like you said, just because one is better at something than the other, whatever the case may be, like they're still both your kids, that you're so proud of both of them, and they need to know that. Just treating them both, like they're the special people that they are, regardless of their acumen.
It's interesting sometimes in certain settings, people will ask us, or I find I get asked questions about Johnny and things of that nature, and like there's a magic formula or potion to have success. Running, soccer, baseball, basketball, regardless of the sport. And it's an investment that a lot of families make in their kids. And that investment doesn't always come with a rainbow at the end of it. But you learn a lot of lessons. The kids, the parents just support them and encourage them and let them have fun and provide them the opportunities. And
whatever avenue that they're in, it doesn't matter what it is, music, sports, whatever. Like that was a big thing for us. We wanted to be able to give them whatever opportunities we could to fulfill whatever they were looking for. So
like Bryce said, it was soccer, baseball, it was other sports. It wasn't just hockey at first.
He, after his surgery, couldn't do those things anymore. So then he switched his focus to the physique contest, like right off like immediately afterwards. Like if that's going to allow you to make this transition a little bit easier. So we just supported him. Sometimes we have to rein Bryce back, like Bryce.
When he's in, he's in.
You should see his gym. He has a gym over at the store. Oh. He has a gym at the store, and it still is one of his passions. So he's fantastic with it.
I told him he couldn't do any more physique competitions because everybody was questioning genetically if he was my son.
Say, yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
You look at Bryce, for instance, even some of the obstacles he's had in front of him, he excels at something else.
Yep.
He works at something else. He's taking care of his body. Johnny, in his rookie season, gets put down to the Providence team. He doesn't just take that. He does things, with talking to a therapist and working out, but the mindset's there that we're going to get through this. So that's awesome to see.
Yeah, Bryce works at Chapels with Bill, and people come up to us, contractors, homeowners, telling us like what a nice young man he was and what a great job he does at Chapel. So, that's obviously very important to us also, that he's transitioned into that professional life. People recognize his hard work. So that's great too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you.